This is a brief explanation of the equivalent length calculator that is within the Hydronics Design Studio 3.0. What this module does is it finds the equivalent length for a device or a piping circuit. We use the typical menu pull downs for manufacturers' piping size database, as well as to access the different fluid database. The module is broken up into two separate functions. You can determine the equivalent length of a device, or you can determine the equivalent length of pipe, fittings, and valves. Within the determine the equivalent length of a device, you have different options that you can pick on here for head loss of the device, pressure drop of the device, or CVA value of the device. You can also change the fluids, average temperature, as well as the piping size. Here's your results. Down here gives you the equivalent lengths of the device, how many feet of whichever type of tubing or piping you have. Gives you the hydraulic resistance of that device, as well as the Reynolds number. I will show in a second how you go back and forth between these and demonstrate how easy it is to use. So to bring up the module for finding the equivalent lengths, bring up your start screen in the Hydronics Design Studio 3.0 and you pick equivalent length calculator. Once in the equivalent length calculator, you can see this left side is highlighted. We can switch to the other one, which will determine the equivalent length for piping, fittings, and valves. And here you can pull down the type of tubing you're going to be using in the circuit, and then you can input the different how many valves you have and fittings, and it calculates the equivalent length of that 1-inch copper pipe I designated here. You can also go over to threaded fittings and valves, which change the number of feet of the 1-inch copper pipe. Going back to determining the equivalent length of a device, you pick that's all highlighted now, and you can say, okay, I have so many gallons per minute, 5 gallons per minute, my head loss is 10 feet, and this gives you 13.26 feet of 3/8 inch copper pipe. I can change the type of pipe I have. I can go down, let's say, to PEX. I have quite a selection here, and go all the way down here to 12-inch pipe. You can also change the fluid type, and depending on what's known, you can go over to pressure drop of the device or CV value of the device. I think that about concludes the discussion on the equivalent length calculator that is in the Hydronics Design Studio 3.0. Thank you.